The Best presents General and State Elections in Malaysian History.
He's back!
Hell yeah, I am, because the 10th General and State Elections in Malaysian history took place on the 24th of April, 1995. And for once, things were looking up and up for Mahathir and the government. This was because the economy was back to being great, finally recovering from the 80s recession, and GDP was back to once again skyrocketing. In fact, the government unveiled an election budget for the fiscal year of the election, in which they cut tax rates across the board, including for certain consumer items, and completely exempting some low-income earners, while also providing a bonus to civil servants. This proved very popular within the public and definitely translated into some votes. In addition to that, in the 1993 UMNO leadership election, Ghaffar Baba, the incumbent Deputy Prime Minister, became the first incumbent Deputy Prime Minister to lose a race for the UMNO Deputy Presidency, losing it to Anwar Ibrahim, the Minister of Finance, who became the 7th Deputy Prime Minister in Malaysian history. Anwar proved quite a popular addition to Mahathir's government, as he used to be the president of Angkatan Belia Islam Malaysia, or the Malaysian Islamic Youth Movement. And during his tenure as the Minister of Education, he instituted various policies which led to the Islamization of the education system, and thus was very popular within the Malay Muslim youth, and thus added to Mahathir and his government's own popularity. However, the government was not without its controversies. For example, Abdul Rahim Tambishik, the Chief Minister of Malacca, was charged with allegedly having a relationship with a 16-year-old girl. He was 44 at the time.
Dude, she's like half your age, you're a total pedo!
Yeah, not good. Anyways, the DAP leader Lim Guan Eng started accusing him of raping this minor, despite him being discharged as not guilty, and Lim was then detained under the ISA for sedition, which made Rahim's image even worse. And so, he eventually resigned as Chief Minister of Malacca, and on the 14th of October 1994, he was replaced by Muhammad Zin Abdul Ghani as the Chief Minister of Malacca. There was also the trouble of the Al-Akram sect of Islam, which was led by a preacher known as Ash'ari Muhammad and was deemed deviationist by the Mahathir government. Later on, using the ISA, they would literally drag Ash'ari from Thailand into Malaysia in order to detain him. And this move was a little controversial, and it was expected that many Al-Akram supporters would be voting for the opposition. But they were pretty minimal, and Al-Akram turned out to be big assholes anyway, so I wouldn't say that's a bad thing. Meanwhile, the opposition stood divided and floundered as PAS, against Semangat 46's wishes, tried to enact hudud law in the state of Kelantan, the only state the opposition really controlled at this point. This was to get some cheap political points against UMNO by labeling them as un-Islamic for not enacting hudud law themselves. However, it also went against the federal constitution, as only the federal government has authority over Islamic law, and it also pissed off their unofficial coalition partners in Gagasan Rakyat, as obviously a multiracial DAP and a Sabahan PBS would obviously not want to associate themselves with a very radically Islamic party. However, I have to say it's quite familiar sounding. PAS enacting hudud law in the state of Kelantan. To make matters worse for the opposition, Sabah held its state elections on the 18th of February 1994, in which PBS won a very narrow 25-seat majority, and so you would expect Joseph Perin Kitingan to remain the Chief Minister of Sabah. However, that did not happen, as many PBS assemblymen soon defected to BN, and so Sakaran Dandai was sworn in as the new Chief Minister of Sabah. And so the opposition lost control of one of their two states, leaving only Kelantan as the only state they controlled. And so with all of this in mind, it seemed as if Cooley and his friends were practically screwed, and BN was on track to win another landslide majority. But let's see if they do with the results. Who would have guessed BN won, winning a landslide 162 seats and 65.2% of the popular vote. This is the highest percentage of the popular vote that a coalition has ever won in Malaysian history, unless you count the 1955 election. Meanwhile, the opposition coalitions won just 30 seats and 32.9% of the popular vote. For Perlis, BN swept the entire state, and so, on the 6th of May 1995, Kashidam Kasin was sworn in as the Menteri Besar of Perlis. For Kedah, BN won 34 seats while APU won 2, and so Osman Araf remained the Menteri Besar of Kedah. For Kelantan, APU won 36 seats and BN won 7. This is the only state where the opposition actually won, so Tok Guru Nik Aziz remained the Menteri Besar of Kelantan. For Terengganu, BN won 25 seats while APU won 7, and so Wan Mokhtar Ahmad remained the Menteri Besar of Terengganu. For Penang, BN won 32 seats while Gagasan Rakyat won just 1, and so Koh Su Kun remained the Chief Minister of Penang. For Perak, BN won 51 seats while Gagasan Rakyat again won just 1, and so Ramli Ngah Talib remained the Menteri Besar of Perak. For Pahang, BN won 37 seats while Gagasan Rakyat again won just 1, and so Muhammad Khalil Yaakob remained the Menteri Besar of Pahang. For Selangor, BN won 45 seats while Gagasan Rakyat won 3, and so Muhammad Taib remained the Menteri Besar of Selangor. For Negeri Sembilan, BN won 30 seats while Gagasan Rakyat won 2 this time, so Muhammad Isa Abdul Samad remained the Menteri Besar of Negeri Sembilan. For Malacca, BN won 22 seats while Gagasan Rakyat won just 3, so Muhammad Zin Abdul Ghani from earlier remained the Chief Minister of Malacca. For Johor, BN swept the stage, and so Muhyiddin Yassin, yes, that one, remained the Menteri Besar of Johor. And Sarawak's going to be part of my next video. And so, with these incredible losses for the opposition, Kuli decided to rejoin UMNO in the next year, dissolving Semangat 46 and by extension, the opposition coalitions. Thus, Mahathir's final threat to his power was eliminated, and he seemed on top of the country. But hey, no matter what, I'll still see you in the next election, guys.